go into the part that every entrepreneur cries about, the money. How did you invest into this business?
Jeez.
Was it someone else? Did the madam believe in you so much?
Mine great. So everything has been self-funded, right? So when we started off, my mother actually said, listen, you can't sit around here, go sell something. And she gave me my first 500 rand, right, to go stock and go resell. And after falling in love with the idea, obviously that needed a whole lot of money.
We actually did an episode last week on compliance for businesses. What are some of the compliances you think that you faced?
You're still facing compliance is a nightmare. Government, damn it. Yo. It is a nightmare. So especially in the food industry.
Yeah.
So when we started off, remember when we got into producing the juice itself, because we didn't have machinery, nor did we have a space, we had to get into a co-packing deal. Okay. So literally somebody with machinery or a company that already is registered and has machinery, we would just give them our ingredients and they will produce for us. Okay. That way we're cutting off the whole compliance thing. The only thing that we needed to do was literally just take the product and take it to the stores, right? But
so they manufacture for you and then you
okay, right. But that deal fell off because of quality assurance thing, right? So you get there, you put it in the shelf, it changes color and all the stuff. You know what I mean?
And that's stressful, especially in the food industry.
You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, then we decided to cut that deal, and now it changed the whole business model. Now we changed from being distributors, because that's what we were at the beginning. Just take it to the store. The model then had to change. Now we are manufacturers. Now when you manufacture, the overheads skyrockets, right? Because now you have to get your rental space, you have to get machinery, you need to get the bottles, ingredients, etc., labor, and all this stuff. So when that changed, we then had to move into my parents' bedroom, garage. They started complaining, the folks were like, nah, you're using too much of our water. And it's not safe, people can trip because there's a stabilizer which is giving this thing, the product, the thickness. But it's, so whenever it spills, it's a bit slippery on the floor, so it was not safe as well. And then now we had to then find a bigger space, which luckily we got a space in the township. So our product is mainly in the township. Right?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you.
So there is a industrial space that we are currently producing in, but it's not an ideal space for food manufacturing. So it's an industrial part. So it's like your mechanics or your so basically that kind of work that happens there. So it's not ideal for food production because there could be fumes from the car or whatever, the mechanic that can affect everything. So literally we had health and safety officers coming through just to inspect the space. And so there's a whole lot of things that we need to do in order for us to comply and for us to get into the major retailers. So we've spoken to the likes of Pick and Pay Shop, right? They like the product, taste the product, but we need to comply in terms of the health and safety space as well. Not to say you're gonna die, but it's just to say, listen, the environment that you're in needs to, be proper, right? So our biggest challenge is that. So in order for us to comply, literally we need to renovate the whole place. Then we need to get a proper space. Right, then get the proper machinery. So for us to comply, you were looking at plus minus 150k for us to comply. And
that's a steep amount.
That's what I said.
That is a steep amount.
That's what I said.
It's disheartening, bro. Because there's it's not like this product can't compete with Tropica and what other brands are there. But your biggest barrier to entry, this is what I was trying to say the last episode, is compliance.
Compliance.
You can't do shit
Ish.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure. You know, they say they learn young.
Yeah.
So they can't do anything significant without some kind of compliance, to sit on.
But we are working on it. I think I had SABS coming and taking the product, and I was like, listen, the product is not going to kill anyone. That's not what I want. So there's SABS approved, and essentially what SABS does is just to see if it's human consumable. Right. That's what they do. Right. But there's another level of certification where the whole process of manufacturing it needs to have a standard of manufacturing is for you to comply.
Okay.
So with that's the one that requires proper machinery, proper housing, proper space, right? Ventilation and all that stuff. So we are currently working with that. So we're in partnership now with the company called Family Tree, and what they're doing is to say, listen, there are so many entrepreneurs in the township. And they're all about township economy. Let's try and help these people so that they can comply and get their products out there. So from compliance, then once you comply, at least then you can start reaching the bigger stores, because essentially that's what we need. It's a numbers game, right? And that will help us obviously with the distribution and everything of that nature. So it's a work in progress. We should, in terms of SABS approved, but in terms of what's the certification of acceptability, that's from the health department. That should be done by the end of this year. Crossing fingers.
That's the goal for this year.
The goal for this.
And then it opens up all the doors.
It opens up so much more doors.
So I was gonna ask for what's your, because I'm seeing this a lot now. I actually saw it with what's it, Trip.
Yes.
And Boucher as well. I think they actually outsource their manufacturing and then they just come bring design. So what's your opinion on us not owning our own manufacturing?
Our manufacturing process.
Yeah, is it ideal? Because I know companies, Red Bull, they do that. They outsource and look where they are. They just focus on the marketing. Do you think that's the philosophy or the mentality we should take, or do you think we should own our entire value chain from?
Yeah, so I mean, do what rocks your boat, man. They have the reason as to why they do it. Like you say, currently in South Africa, manufacturing is like close to non-existent. Right? And they still need to compete, and they need to still have the product in on the shelves as well. So, from my understanding, they way of doing it to say, let's cut costs, because labor costs also in South Africa, because of the unions and everything of that nature. Those are also it's affecting the whole space of trying to manufacture in the household space, because that's too expensive. So for their mindset, let me cut costs and let me get the product in it. But philosophy wise, and if we have to be philosophical about it, then I mean, what's the point then if we're always going to export? Ideally, yes, we should have our own manufacturing space, but the country itself should allow us to do so, right? It's one thing to say I want to do it, but if the environment goes back to the whole compliance thing, if the whole space does not allow you to do so, then find an alternative. And I guess that's what they're doing, how they're doing it, and it's working for them. But I'm sure it's something that needs to be fixed. Definitely, we need a whole lot of manufacturing space in our country, especially with machinery. This thing of importing machinery and stuff like that. Literally. I've got a mixing tank in China. It costs like 200. No, I'm lying. It costs 50K. Like it's a 500-liter tank. And in South Africa, it's costing me like 150K, right? So now you have to sit and say, okay.
Who's to say they don't buy it from them?
You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So we need to fix that whole manufacturing. The manufacturing space needs help, and also the government itself should allow us to get into that space. Otherwise, so many red tapes and so many hindrances in it that's stopping us from being able to flourish. Hence, people opt to source out and go international.
If it makes their business easier. And reduces their costs while they can still maintain their profits.
And last question. Yeah, damn done. You guys can pitch in whatever.
Yeah.
You know, via, because I'm not a heavy player in the township economy like you are.
Yes.
That's your home base.
Yes.
So it's the buzzword now. Township economy. Township. What's your thoughts on how the government is, trying to sort of like lift that area in terms of business? Because, like I said, I'm not there often. So I wouldn't really see the actual physical street difference like you would. What is there a difference?
Yeah. So I was actually discussing this with a fellow entrepreneur who's in a similar space as I am, and I'm like, the word township is so used so loosely, right? Township economy, but we're not seeing the results as yet. To answer your question, again, it's something because the bill was literally signed in May of this year.
Yes, this was like a
yesterday. No, literally last year. So the bill was only signed recently, and yeah, it's a buzzword. But corporates are coming in. Netbank is in, helping township entrepreneurs. A whole lot of other companies are coming in as well to help them. So it's gradually. Let me just say, it's still getting implemented. We'll only see then the results maybe in 5 years. It's only literally starting now. So it's too early for us to say whether it's a fail or it's a success. As it, like I said, it's only starting now. Yeah. So it's only time will tell.
It'll basically just be like a framework now, and then by the time we get to what's actually happening there, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
So essentially they're telling you we've given you a framework now. This is your your boundaries. This is what you can work with in there.
Sure.
And at some point now, as time goes on, you're going to start seeing the benefits of the procedures in there. Essentially.
I don't know, bro. I feel like it's just another populist bill.
Look,
personally, I really don't think, because I also have another problem with these like a township entrepreneurs, because the moment you start going from small to medium size and then to your corporate, you migrate and you move to the more affluent areas, and then you sort of like, I don't know, neglect the township.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's also going back to the whole manufacturing thing that I pointed out, saying that the environment needs to be conducive for people to come and manufacture work within the township, right? So literally, I had a friend of mine who was also in manufacturing, but he does braids, so he's competing with Albany and stuff. And his biggest problem is the electricity supply and the instability of the electricity, right? So in the township, there's a whole lot of power shading or something like that. That happens every damn week. Right? Then it hinders him from producing his braid, and he's producing like morning shift and evening shift. So if he's not producing in the evening, that means in the morning there's nothing to go and deliver, right? Right? And also now that he's scaling up, right? He needs bigger machinery. Bigger machinery means bigger power, right? And the environment is a residential area, so it's not built for large machinery. So when he bought this huge stove, plugged it in, it literally took all the power within the streets. Right? So he literally now, he's sitting at the point where his braid is literally found in the township. That's what his goal is, or what our goal is to get the product within our consumer, which is in the township. But the area is not conducive for him to, hence now he needs to move out, and come back and do the thing. There's other dynamics that we have.
I think we can sit and debate about it the whole day, like as an outsider versus an insider, because I'm also thinking like the bill. What I only read like a brief, because it was my hate for the ruling party overshadowed my judgment. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what does the bill actually contribute? Is it in terms of the value chain? Is it in terms of, like you said, the whole manufacturing? Because I'm thinking, like, if you look at Soweto, for example, there's so much barren land. You can easily create another Wadeville in Soweto, but there's a Maritzburg if you go north. Same thing with Khauhelo. There's probably a lot of barren land, but you go north, there's your Wadevilles and your what. So I'm thinking to myself, what exactly is this bill like trying to grow, achieve? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean,
maybe you know better than I do.
Yeah. So again, like we said, like it's only signed recently, and it will be too soon for us to judge it or criticize it. But I mean, working with Family Tree, so Family Tree has 2 pillars and that they're working on. So it's the retail part of things.
Okay.
So they're working with the spaza shops, right? And renovating the spaza shops, making sure the spaza shop has enough stock for them to sell, right? And then the spaza shop owners or the spaza shop themselves need to ensure that 60% of the stock in there is locally manufactured. Then that's where we come in to make sure that their store has local manufactured product, which then in return is helping us local manufacturers to come in and to grow ourselves. So Family Tree also has their own distribution center, or planning to have their own distribution center. In that way, they'll then find land, as you're talking about, turn it into a weight field to say, okay, this is going to be a distribution center, this is going to be a manufacturing hub, etc., etc. So it's like, again, a gradual thing. So something will be happening in 2 weeks' time in Khauhelo. I can't. They told me not to say anything, so I wish I could tell you about this. I want to tell you, but I can't.
Just remember, it's 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, 2 weeks' time. We'll be having a visit. We'll be signing something in 2 weeks' time. So it's only starting now. Give it time. But also, it's a good thing that you're looking at it with those eyes to criticize it, because we need to get people to be accountable. Especially as young people, when it comes to politics, the time now is crucial for us to be part of politics. I know we've got this thing like, nah, you know, it's not my game, those people just eat their money, but essentially they are there because of us, and they are doing all these mess ups because of us, because we are laid back as well.
And we're letting it just happen.
You know, we're just letting it happen. It's the same when I read today, another state-owned enterprise is also going to be falling off, is the water. You know, as much as we have power that's now, you know,
an issue.
an issue, now the water department itself is having an issue. So it's because we just sit and like,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And government, we don't do anything. So we also need to play our role as citizens, and the bill, we need to look at it, we need to ask the questions that you're asking to the relevant parties, so that we put these people to account.